Hello and welcome to Cracked Open, a podcast guiding you on your journey to becoming a vessel of unconditional love. This is your host, Beck Milonis, High Priestess, Channel, and Activator. Join me on this series as I share reflections, insights, and channel transmissions from my journey of walking the initiation path. Each episode is a unique transmission containing supportive frequencies to facilitate the deepest healing, activation, and reconnection with your soul. I invite you to open your mind and set the intention to receive this episode into your heart space. Let's go. Welcome back, beautiful souls, to another episode of Cracked Open, a podcast guiding you to becoming a vessel of unconditional love. Today, I'm here with a soul brother of mine, Neil Gaur, who I'm so excited to have here on the show. I had the absolute honor and privilege of meeting Neil last year at a conference that we were both presenting at, and there was a very instant friend connection, and it was so fucking beautiful to meet you. So welcome to the show, Neil.
Thanks, Beck. Yeah, I feel the same way. So I'm really glad to be here with you. And I really just appreciate our friendship and connection.
Yeah. So Neil is a wealth of knowledge. You have gone down many rabbit holes and you've got lots of wisdom in that brain of yours, but you are also the founder of Portal to Ascension, which is a huge platform for, what would you call it in your words? Platform for awakening or?
Yeah. Well, there's so many different ways to explain it, but I would say like a platform for the evolution of consciousness, because that's the ultimate goal, I guess.
Beautiful, amazing. So, guys, definitely check out Portal to Ascension if you haven't already. So much juicy stuff on there. To begin with, though, I would really love to get to know, or my audience to get to know you and your journey. So, tell us a little bit about your backstory, your origin story, how the hell
Yeah.
you came here to with all this wisdom and knowledge, and what started you on this path. Because I know you got an interesting story. So,
hmm
take it away.
Sure. Well, it started because I was raised Hindu. I'm Indian from an Indian family from North India, and then they moved to England when they were young. I was born in England, and I was raised with my Hindu belief systems and religious practices, and I did pretty much everything I was told. I went to temple. Even as a kid, I was actually like singing bhajans, which are like the Indian hymns, like, and it was just a cute thing, like this little kid singing these bhajans, and I didn't know what the heck I was saying in Sanskrit. I didn't know what it was about. So even though that was my faith for a long time, when I started waking up, I was kind of like jokingly saying I was an atheist Hindu, meaning like I had no real firm beliefs. And a lot of people that I realized, a lot of like first generation out of India kids, they're just following the rites and rituals. They're not really like hardcore grounded into the concept of why are we doing this? Is there a God? Is there a higher power? So I was very, very similar. I was like that as well. Not too long ago, my belief system around like calling myself an atheist Hindu shifted. And I realized that because I was raised Hindu, I was never told it was the only way. And that was the foundation, I feel, for me being open to everything. Because being raised in England, we celebrated Christmas. I watch King of Kings, Jesus stuff every Christmas. Um, watched Moses movies and all the like biblical stuff, and it wasn't like this is just a Hollywood movie to watch. It was more like this is historical stuff that happened. But I was full on Hindu family, so even though I was raised like that, I was still open to and told that these are also realities. And I soon realized that like if you firmly understand the Hindu philosophy, they never say that these other religions aren't legit. They say that um, different cultures, different religions, different beliefs come onto different areas of the planet at different times because we're different cultures and people and we operate differently. So therefore, we need all these people take us to source and connect us to the divine in a different way because the culture is not the same as someone else. So because that was the case, I was open to a lot of different things, and I saw that very quickly. I saw that Christianity or Krishna and Christ, Jesus Christ, Yeshua, had a lot of similarities, and I started exploring these similarities because I was always told that paganism, even though I would argue that Hinduism isn't really pagan. It's kind of more monotheistic, really, and and monotheism, like the Abrahamic religions, both evolved separately from each other. There was no crossover. And I started seeing all these similarities, and even the fact that Krishna has Christ in his name, right? And then Krishna is born to a virgin mother, has a carpenter father, died with an arrow in his side. Jesus died on the cross with a spear in his side, right? Same place and all this stuff. Known as the Savior, told everybody that I am the way and the light, right? And I was like, wait a second, what's going on? So like this is like 17, 18 years old, around 2000. So I started wondering, and now the concept I started or became curious about was, what is the root of all religion? Is there a root? And Adam and Eve was definitely part of the stories that I've heard. I went to Catholic school for like 2 years in England, and so is there, even if there wasn't an Adam and Eve, were there less people on the planet at one time? Most likely. Were there two groups of people interacting with each other? Maybe those are different tribes. Well, most likely. And did all these faiths possibly stem from one original source faith? And what is that? So started going down the route of all religion. I would have the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, the Bible, the Old Testament, starting drawing similarities. And as I was going further and further back, I stumbled across like many different scriptures, but very quickly I found the Sumerian tablets of creation. Okay. And this is in 2001. And in 2001, like there was no what do you call it? There was no like archives of like Enlil, Enki, click this, and I'll get all the information. It was just a website with just text, just like
You're an original
HTML.
gangster.
Yeah.
Like you're a fucking original gangster. There was text. I love
Yeah,
that.
straight up. So, and I'd have to go through myself, and the Sumerian tablets of creation was translated online, like in that form. So I would look into it, research it. And now the milestone was the flood story of the Epic of Gilgamesh. So when I saw the flood story and I started listening to like Jordan Maxwell and a few other people talking about how this flood story, Gilgamesh, was traveling the world and stumbled across a survivor of an ancient flood. And Uptana Nishtim, I think is his name in Sumerian, but it was Noah. He's found Noah. And I'm like, what? Well, how could the Sumerian scriptures talking about these hybrid weird beings, giants, and all this stuff be finding Noah and crossing over the Noah story? And I started realizing that almost every civilization in the world had a flood story, and most of them all went to the same period of time and was the same exact story. So that flood story carried over. And then the third thing was the some of the text that was taken from this Sumerian scriptures and put into the Old Testament. For example, in the Sumerian tablets of creation, we were created in the Elohim's image and the Elohim's likeness. Okay, so Elohim was a Phoenician god adopted by the Israelites, whatever. And then if you translate that correctly, it is actually a plural, right? And you probably know this already. Like it's a plural, so it wasn't like, and it's not a. I used to think it's feminine, but actually it's a neutral term. It doesn't have a feminine or a masculine. So it actually says the gods created us in their image and their likeness. And then it goes on to tell you where the gods are from, what planet they're from, gives you a picture of the solar system on the tablet with the position of the planet there. And then it has all this text about these beings called the Anunnaki from Nibiru and blah, 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 all that stuff. So I started saying, wait a second, either all religion that's from in the world is complete BS because it comes from ancient beings, people doing like psychedelics and seeing sci-fi stuff, or maybe all these gods and angels and all this stuff are actually extraterrestrials coming from another planet. And so that started in 2001, 2002. So that started me going down deep down the rabbit hole that eventually led to where I'm at now.
How the fuck, like I'm thinking about I downloaded myself this concept of the Anunnaki before. I didn't do
Yeah.
research. I'm not a researcher. I'm fucking terrible at reading historical things. I'm like, the thought of even having to go and look at these texts and like, I'm like, oh, poor Neil. Like,
Yeah.
fuck that. But when I remember for me, it was this, I channeled it. I channeled it. And then later I found the text that
Mm-hmm,
backed
mm-hmm.
up everything. And it was such a visceral experience in my body. And I had a question to ask and it's gone. Do you always primarily like research this stuff, or do you connect it with your channel? Because I know you channel stuff too. When you're receiving this stuff, do you feel into like what's the truth, or what's, what's where I sit with it, or is it just from research that you get this
Well,
stuff?
before it used to be like in the beginning when I was first like looking into this stuff, I wasn't even meditating. I didn't really get into. I realized this is all spiritual text, 2001, 2002, but not until maybe like 2006, 7 did I start um, zeroing in on the consciousness behind it all and the tools and the modalities, right?
Yeah.
So there was like 6, 7 years of just pure research. And now I would say it's both, a lot of things are
Hmm.
validated. I get past life regressions, do meditations and things where I see things, and then it's validated from interactions with people. And
Hmm.
some of the stuff that I'm seeing now and I'm talking about, there is no text on in the world. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like the dragons and things like
Hmm.
that. My life on Orion, no, there's nothing like that anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's coming more into that. So and it's still both really, because I love researching, getting the information. Because with Portal to Ascension, the events that I'm doing, it's not really just for a niche community of people that already know. It's really an educational platform for people that want to know or are getting into it as well. And a lot of those people, without the information, you know, there's a system out there, a matrix out there that just keeps them brainwashed anyway.
Hmm.
So unless they have the right type of information to take them out of that, they might not ever understand or come over to this side.
So it's so interesting because I'm seeing like the bigger purpose, and I didn't realize like that's how long Portal to Ascension's been around for, and I'm like, someone
Yeah,
had to build the fucking research and like put it all together. Do you think for people like, I mean, I know the answer to this and how I would perceive this, but falling down this rabbit hole is like a necessary kind of entry point to then expand their consciousness into, because I did it completely opposite
yeah,
way. Like I did my brain expanded, my channel opened, all of that, and then I started finding out about aliens and all the other things.
yeah,
But do you think this is for most people the access point, like the questioning and then the researching and then the finding? I'm just because
yeah.
it's such a different way of coming at it. Like talk to me about that
Right,
process.
right. Well, since I've worked with so many people, I would say everything has happened, all different types of experiences,
Mm-hmm.
right? Into downloads, yoga class, not spiritual, Kundalini
Mm-hmm.
activation, all of a sudden information, all types of things, soul contracts, where all of a sudden an ET just comes and says something to them. They're just living a conventional life, right?
Mm-hmm.
All that happens. And I would say something that I've like kind of jokingly, but also seriously have been saying for a while is what took me like a decade to learn. People are getting in like instant right now, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
not just because they're connected, that's also happening, but also the information is readily available so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I'm kind of like a victim to YouTube shorts and Instagram reels,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a 30-second TikTok mentality, those TikTok videos sometimes have like packed like a book worth of information in one that tells you about some ET race. So
Mm-hmm.
the bite-sized pieces of information that people are able to get now that gives them so much more is pretty intense. And there's also the spiritual modalities, past life regressors, healers, readers of Akashic records. All that stuff is way more accepted and available to people to tap into.
So I know, and I see the journey you would have had to go on, like to be able to bring forth this. It's fucking massive. Your mission is massive. I'm curious the preparation you personally had to go through, because it's one thing to be researching this stuff, but then personally, the mission of like, well, firstly, even realizing the mission of, oh, fuck, I'm here to bring together this community of all this information and this portal and all of that.
Yeah,
But then also the purification you would have had to go through, because you have to have a level of purity in your heart to hold it with the integrity the way that you do. I know the integrity you hold this space with, for it to reach the people as well. So talk to me about your personal process. At what point did you realize, oh, this is my calling and this is what I'm here for? And
yeah,
kind of what were you doing before that? Like, was it like
right,
a
right, right.
complete career change? Was it a life change? Was it a crisis? Like, how did that evolve for you?
Yeah. So I would say that when I knew that this was it, 2006 to 2008, that's around the time, right? Before that, I was researching, and then 2006, I created an online group called 2000 on Facebook called 2012 Consciousness, Mind, Evolution, and Presence. So I was heavily up until 2012, up until like January 2013. I was heavily into 2012 information, like Maya, evolution, consciousness happening on that day, possible
Which
contact.
we can talk about that because I've touched on this in my book. Like shit did
Okay.
happen. Shit did
Oh yeah,
happen. We'll
no,
come back
no,
to it.
no,
We'll
no,
come
no.
back
I
to
feel things happen too,
it.
and actually,
Yeah.
a lot of practical and actually like systems had shifted in the world, like actual physical systems,
Mhm.
rather than like, I mean, sure, the esoteric things happen too, but rather than just like almost all of a sudden this ET's in the sky and they land,
Mhm.
actual things did occur. I feel that as well. So
Mhm.
I was heavily into all of that. So I created the group, 2012 Consciousness, Mind Evolution Presence. Lots of people started joining. And then over the period of 2 years, from 2006 to 2008, I started changing the name because that was the most rapid evolution of my understanding of all this stuff. So, for example, the first thing I took out was mind evolution. No, mind, because I realized it wasn't about the mind, it's about something beyond the mind. So it was like 2012 consciousness, evolution, and presence, right? And then I took out 2012 because I realized it's not about a date. And then it became cosmic consciousness, evolution, and presence. And then it just became cosmic consciousness. So the group's name kept changing as I was changing in those times. In 2008, I had a dream in which the name came to me, Portal to Ascension. And that was the year that I got fired as a financial analyst. I was working as a assistant to a financial analyst, analyzing stock market. And I learned how to do web design, and I created the first Portal to Ascension website. And I did my first event, which was a hypno creativity, where my friend was doing binaural beats with hypnosis in order to help people release their creative blocks. Right. So that was kind of what was going on and how it became an event organization. Before that, when I was in college in California, and the whole time I was learning this, 2001, it took me like 6 years to graduate. So from 2000 to 2006, I was learning this information. I was freestyle rapping. I was rapping about this stuff and putting it in there and everything, and also going really deep down the rabbit hole. So part of my awakening process was a lot of conspiracies following the bloodline. So when I was doing the Sumerian scriptures, I found about the what's called the what are they called? The second tier of gods, known as the Igigi, that are actually the fallen angels in the Bible. And the fallen angels, Nibiru had two gods on it, two extraterrestrial races, the Igigi and the Anunnaki, two different species. The Igigi were the ones interacting with us. They're the fallen angels from the text. And then when the Anunnaki left, the Igigi stayed on the planet and became the bloodlines that were basically foundational in all these secret societies, and why so many corrupt secret societies believe that they're descendants of these beings from other planets. It comes from this bloodline. So I started following it for like 6 years and realizing all this corruption and thinking that they've created this matrix for us, that we're basically fucked. They've taken it all from us. We're not going to be able to break free from it. So I was a college kid, but at the same time, I was getting deep into the fear until I shifted in 2008, where I had a spiritual awakening in that moment, where I was kind of just at an open mic, about to perform. And I was just like kind of down and out and just reflecting on a lot of the information that I learned. And a friend of mine was on stage. Well, he became my friend that day. And he was singing a song called My Name is Love. Right. And at that point, I realized, like, yo, I've been into all this conscious awareness, and there's so much spirituality involved, vibration, frequency, meditation, wormholes in Sumerian scriptures, right? Um, so why is it that I feel so like we're screwed? And I realized, well, the missing link was love. And the evolution of my awareness was, instead of this happening to us, this is happening for us. And the amnesia element started coming to me, realizing that in the world, when we come from all that is, all knowing, and then we decide to come down and forget, first of all, that's a very brave thing to do, decide to forget. And then the game, if you will, is set up in a way that with the only way to remember and go through this game and actually experience the game fully is to not remember where we're from. And the only way to get the light in this world of duality is to go through the darkness. So and then a few months later, got fired as a financial analyst. And then I started the Portal to Ascension events. So it was like I had to go through all that darkness, that conspiracy stuff, in order for me to really start realizing the bigger picture. And as soon as I got started understanding the bigger picture, the events started happening.
And you led us so beautifully into the next question I was going to ask you around darkness, because Neil has 3 planets in Scorpio. I think you might have more than that, but your main three are in Scorpio, right? Sun,
Hmm.
musing, your sun and your musing, sun, moon, and rising signs. Excuse me, guys. So that is a planet that is the depths. Like Scorpio, for those who aren't astrological people on here, Scorpio is about the depths. It's about like mysticism. It's about going deep. It's about like intensity, right? So you have this nature in you to like want to explore the depths. What does that look like for you in your practice? Because I think there's a lot of people on this journey who are afraid to explore the darkness. They're afraid to explore the depths. And talk to me about the process of like what going to those depths has been for you, including your own mental health, because I know you've had mental health stuff, how that's liberated you or how that's supported you, right? Rather than just dragging you down there and you getting stuck, because I think it's an important thing to touch on.
Yeah. And I have been dragged down and got stuck many times.
We all
Yeah.
have. Yeah, we all have. Everyone on this
So
podcast listening to me fucking knows I
I know,
love
right?
it.
Yo, so I would say that I I don't know when I came to the realization that the Scorpio energy was really connected to the work I'm doing. And I know I had a reading, my first astrology reading in 2010, where someone told me that I am here to take things from the underworld and bring it out to the surface, right? And then a couple years ago, I was in like Atitlan in Guatemala, and I was at the mystical yoga farm there, and this lady heard me freestyling, right? Because we're freestyling like every night at the bonfire, and she was like, "Oh, can I do a reading for you? Because I'm so curious about your rap. I've never heard anything like this." And so she did a reading for me, and she goes, that your role here on Earth is the same thing, to go into underworld, take things out to the surface, and just throw it on the surface and tell the world to deal with it.
Neil, something is like it's dragon. That's like full on fucking dragon codes. Like really, it's the
uh,
Guardians of the Underworld dragon codes.
that's
There's lots
true.
of stuff dropping around because this is the last chapter in my book that I'm still like there's like 2 paragraphs I need to tie together the whole fucking process, and it's
Yeah,
around my role as a gatekeeper of the underworld. And as you were talking, I was like, oh shit, that's the
right.
dragon codes. It's my whole body. Anyway, continue.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So how it comes out so that's basically my role, is to take things out that we're not ready to deal with and take it out to the surface, and then also provide the tools and the reasons why we shouldn't judge it and be angry about it, or create a space for us to move to the anger even sooner in a harmonious way, so that we're not judging or persecuting the ones that have created the darkness,
Mhm.
because in many ways that is us, and we've actually done that as well, right?
I was
So
literally about to ask, like, how many lifetimes have you uncovered where you're a dick?
yeah, yeah.
Because I've uncovered lots, like of
Well,
my
I've
own.
I've had a life in Egypt where I realized I was part of the fall from grace, you know.
Hmm.
So that's what I'm saying. This is like really much like a stage. We're all actors up in here,
Hmm.
and we're
Hmm.
all playing roles, and we come and meet the same actors, but playing different roles. And so I've been it all, and that's why, like, so knowing that, and also being shamed very hardcore as a child into things that maybe I did wrong and things that I didn't do wrong, but my family didn't know how to deal with it, and instead it created more shame and more disharmony in me, put me to a level of self-judgment on such a severe level that I'm almost incapable of judging others now, you
Hmm.
know so
Hmm.
that pain and the shame actually is a tool for me to learn from, so that I could be at a place of neutrality, so we can be a platform, a non-biased platform for consciousness without censorship, allowing people's thoughts to be heard. I realized a lot of times when when on that platform, people say things that other people don't agree with, and it triggers something within them, where instead of looking at where that trigger is and why it's coming up for us, we project it out as anger, or this person's like this, or this person's a white supremacist because they mentioned this guy's name, you know what I'm saying? Or
Hmm.
things like that. So I create events, I see what's going on, and then I created like an answer to, for example, what I just shared. Um, I was like, how do I really just like give my community more of a tool to realize why we shouldn't judge and allow for other people's perspectives to be said? Because over the last 4 or 5 years in the US, especially, I think over there too.
Mm-hmm.
There's just been like so many splits politically
Everyone
and
has a fucking opinion about
every
everything.
and
Yeah.
woke culture, and then everybody's a racist and freaking like Me Too being corrupted and all this shit, right? Like it's just
Mm,
it's just like, and then within that, not everybody is aware like that the things were corrupted, and they're like,
mm-hmm.
you know, so I did an event called Heal the Divide, right?
Beautiful.
And it was literally like subliminally speaking about this stuff, and then also providing tools and reasons why we should heal the divide. And part of it was like divide and conquer is the name of the game, you know,
Mm-hmm.
by splitting the communities and all this stuff. Like it just makes it that they're more strong. It makes us more docile, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, you know, what I've been doing lately in order to bring back unity and letting people know that we have more in common with each other. Even if we have ideological belief systems that are different, we still have more in common with each other than those that claim to rule us,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. I'm curious how, like, give me an example of how you would manage that because for me, it's part of the reason I'm kind of like not fully into social media all the time, like my socials, because I just don't have energy to be arguing with people and like I don't respond anymore. I used to respond and try and prove my point, which now I've learned like I don't need to prove anything to anyone and that person's just fucking triggered, which is fine. And also, it's where they're at, and there's no point trying to change that. So, how do you create a space which is safe for people to express, right? And this is for people maybe who have a channel of their own or whatever, and they're having people lashing out. This is why I'm asking, because you do this beautifully. How do you create a space which is safe for everyone to express and go through the evolution they need to while still monitoring it so we're not encouraging ideas which are harmful or which are negating someone's experience or bypassing them, right? Like, because that person's experience is real to them in the moment, even if it's very wounded, very shadowy, very like
Mm-hmm.
projections of all their fucking shit coming up. It's still a real experience to them in the moment. We need to acknowledge that and handle it with grace. So, how do
Yeah.
you do that? Is my question
Well,
for you.
so I used to get really triggered when people would email me saying things that they're triggered about because like I'm putting in so much work and energy towards
Mm,
this and they don't know what it takes and they don't know my belief systems. So they would email me or say something about me when maybe I'm not even in alignment with that 100%. So it would trigger my own stuff, you know? And so I've worked through that quite a lot. And now I'm more, you know, instead of people being monsters, it's more like people are just wounded children, you know? So I see that, and I with that awareness I get less people messaging me these things now, so I'm just not in that field as much. And when they do and I have the time for it, I'll respond with my perspective in a really neutral way, and 9 times out of 10 they respond back with an apology because we've just kind of shifted. I didn't respond to their trigger with the trigger,
mm-hmm.
you know.
That's so
So
key.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
The
that's important.
self-reflection. Yeah, that's so many fucking people. I don't actually speak into that. Clear, cancel, delete. In the past, there's been so many of our people who have, or in the world, like humanity, have just been reacting instead of
Yeah,
like sitting and being like, why do I want to react to this? And why does it upset me if
yeah,
that person doesn't like me or has a different opinion, you know? I think we all need to be a little bit less reactive, and that is the all the work that you've done and that I've done and that those of us who are leading have done to really come into ourselves and to clear the distortions that are actually keeping us in separation.
yeah.
Because if you can see God in everyone and everything, then you see they're just wounded children and it's perfect for them where they're at. So I
Right.
hear you. Um,
Yes, yes.
talk
So
to me. I don't know.
I'll
Yeah,
say more
it's.
about that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So um, when someone responds to me or gets triggered about something that I have done or created an event of, um, oftentimes I wonder why, like, because it makes me doubt my work. It used to make me doubt what I'm doing my work. Oh, maybe I did something wrong because that people pleaser comes out, you know?
Yeah.
And so now, because I know I'm doing great work and I'm doing a lot, I'm putting a lot of effort. So when people say that to me, I check in with myself to be like, when I feel insecure about it, or like, oh, they said something about a post I made, and I'm like thinking, should I delete the post because that one person said something? And I'm
Mhm.
like, what is within me that I'm not owning to be confident about what I'm doing? Right.
Yes.
And so I'll work on that. And then the other part is you said safety, just the compassion and the love in general. I feel that I emanate in the people around me. You know, I've done events with people that are very controversial, and when they come to my event, I like did a 5-day event on extraterrestrials, 10 hours a day. And all types of people in the ET community were there. And some of them extremely controversial in their beliefs. And when they all came to my platform, I didn't even have to tell them. None of them went into those divisive topics, you know, and they all created a synergy. There was 55 speakers. They all created a synergy of unity without me even having to tell them to. But you see my other events, and it's not like that. So it's like there's something with the energy field of portal ascension and what people know we represent, that they bring that unity element regardless of their beliefs into it. Because ultimately, even if they're being divisive, why are they doing this stuff? They're trying to awaken humanity, right? So portal to ascension really, I feel, is a beacon for people understanding that. And when I do live events, it's so fun, so interactive, so much love. I bring all my best friends as MCs. You know, most of these speakers are my really good friends. And then people come up to me, like my event in San Diego last year, someone came to me and he goes, my first time coming to an event like this. And I got to tell you, this is like on the post-conference day, washing my hands in the bathroom. He was like, he came up to wash his hands and he goes, I have never felt this safe in my entire life. It's like in his late 50s, right? And that was like a great like testimonial right there. We create a scene where people feel seen, and then they feel that they're safe to be themselves.
Absolutely. I love that. It's so beautiful. And it's interesting, like the more work you do on yourself to purify, you project this field outwards, which naturally attracts beautiful people. And
Yeah.
I think we both see that. Like I see that in my life, even how I met you and the people that I met at that beautiful conference, which I was randomly called to go to, even though it was like not what I fucking at all expected it to be,
Yeah.
right? It's like prank on everyone, but it was great because it was, such a, like the connections I made at that podcast. I've had all
Yeah.
of you nearly on here already,
Yeah.
and they've fucking echoed and rippled into my life, and they continue. Um, but that's because it's the work that I've done to align myself with what's true, like what's for me, who I am, right? And the more we're like resonating with the truth of who we are, the more we pull in people who are the truth of who we are as well, which is
Yeah.
love, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like you don't even need protection or about like to be telling people don't bring this up or like don't bring your negative shit into the space because it just can't exist, right? And
Yeah.
it's reminding me of quite a journey I went on with like darker beings and all this stuff, right? Like I went through years and years and years of journeying this shit to prepare myself to be at this level of sovereignty.
Mm.
And I remember there was this one, and it was also about heartbreak. Like I was also journeying relationships and men and heartbreak. And there was this one incident where I had this download and it was so clear of like, you don't need to protect your heart the way that you've been doing it, create these boundaries and these walls and these things of protection. I think it was more about relationships actually, because when your heart is open and emanating this beautiful love, you just don't attract people who want to fuck you over. Like you don't
Mm-hmm.
attract people who want to hurt
Yes.
you. You don't attract entities that want to bring you down. And if they do, then you just love them and then they dissolve into your love bubble and it's like they can't
Mm-hmm.
hurt you because you're just not letting yourself get there. So talk to me about that process. Like
Right.
obviously it's resonating for you, but is anything pinging?
A lot of people have said to me, like, with the topics that you do, aren't you afraid that you're going to be like taken out, or they're going to come after you, things like that?
Straight up, yeah.
Yeah.
Like
And I've
fuck, that's not happened.
no, and I
Obviously.
and even though like even though I talk about some of the stuff to present on it, my presentations, I do a UFO disclosure presentation, but it's not like anything different than maybe it's different top information for sure, but it's not like something that they would want to like take out immediately, right? And my other topics and presentations, sound and vibration, ancient civilizations, true world history, galactic origins, spiritual stuff, isn't something I would say they would be like, oh my God, like we need to take him out. And then but I work with people that would, have been threatened. Some people have actually been targeted. Some of their friends and family members have actually transitioned because of like later been taken out, right? And
Wow.
that's only a percentage of it of my work, and I don't have that much going on right now when it comes to the UFO mainstream stuff. But I have done hardcore conspiracy information, even the weaponization of food summit I did, which was like hardcore exposing like the food industry and pharmaceutical industry, right? So I have never had a doubt in my mind about, or thought in my mind that I'm going to be taken out or attacked. I'm just doing it. It's not even a thing for me. So for years, I would say like, well, I'm just not at the frequency off that, right? So that's what I feel is the firm thing. I don't even entertain the thought that could happen. And then also, we're so esoteric with it, like even though the esoteric information is hardcore truth and valid, especially now is being backed with CIA and government documents that this world of what we're communicating is real. It's so esoteric. I don't think they need to discredit us
Yeah, because you just
as
sound like a
much.
bunch of fucking crazy spiritual people, right?
Yeah,
Like, no one's gonna take
exactly.
that shit seriously until everyone is taking it seriously. That's so interesting. I hadn't even thought to ask you that because I remember, like, particularly writing my book in the 3 months, like, after I met you, I went home for 3 months going through so much fucking fear around this. Like, what if I come out with this stuff and people, like, it was just this fear. And I
Yeah,
forgot that that was even a thing because now I'm like, I got the thought of even being afraid. I'm like, were you really? Like, I'm
right, right.
scared. But it's interesting because it is a real, like, I used to listen to a lot of or watch a lot of Stephen Greer stuff and
Yeah,
to hear his experiences, and it's very real. But I think I actually feel personally we're at a point where it's too late. Like, there's nothing
that they can
we
do.
can absolutely. So they're kind of like, well, it's like
Right, and I've been shadow banned. I've been
I was gonna ask,
taken
yeah.
things off. My Instagram's been taken out. My Facebook's been taken out. You know, and my YouTube page went. All of a sudden, people aren't seeing my stuff. I went from thousands of views to hundreds of views. You know,
Hmm.
so they've done things like that, and so it's more like on a censorship level. They have systems in place in order to get these low hanging fruit from
Yeah.
getting the word out.
Yeah, I've definitely felt that I've been shadow banned multiple times because,
Yeah,
like, honestly, my Instagram at the moment, I don't know what the fuck has happened, but it's like I used to get, 30, 40 at least, which is for my small channel, it's like okay. I get like no views on any of my shit
yeah.
anymore, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Right.
So,
Well,
okay.
also
Which,
like they
yeah.
hijacked they hijacked the movement with the UFO disclosure with first Tom DeLonge, then Jeremy Corbell, and then Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon, all these people that they put out since 2016 from the mainstream, and now the Congress members and all this stuff talking about UFOs. Pre 2016, you do UFO search, maybe we show up on the second page, maybe Stephen Greer on the first page.
Mm,
Now it's just like hundreds of pages of CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, all that stuff. They completely and utterly hijacked it. So I don't think they're really that scared because they also have arrogance. They don't actually know 100% what to be scared of really because of the arrogance of how much pull and they have, right? They
mm,
own the freaking media.
yeah.
They decided to take over the movement. They put their own players into play, you
Hmm.
know? So it's like I feel they think that the controlled narrative of disclosure they have a grip on, right? And this is mostly like shadow government and also like the DoD and the shadowy arms of the military industrial complex, right? Those really are the ones that have the grip on it. And now the grip is they're losing it a little bit because of what's happening with Congress. Now there's a battle within the government of two factions of government, one faction being like, wait, this is happening? How come we didn't know? We're supposed to know everything.
Yeah.
And that's an arrogant ego thing too. Well,
Hmm.
we have top security. You telling me, like, even they said it in Congress. We went there to get this information from them and they said we didn't have clearance. And the Congress member was like, but we have top clearance and security. What
So
do you
who
mean?
has clearance? Yeah, like what the fuck?
Exactly. Right.
Right. Yeah.
So all that stuff is coming out. So yeah, I feel they just don't think that they need to take out the grassroots movement.
Hmm. So where, okay, speaking of all of this, where do you think this is all going? So the new Earth, like all of these things that people talk about, where do you think this is going? What do you think is going to happen to these governments? Do you think people are going to continue to wake up? Like, what's your pulse on all of this stuff? And what have people
Yeah,
been saying as they come through? I know a lot of people say a lot of things about the new Earth, and most of it, in my opinion, is some ungrounded bullshit where no one's actually fucking taking the steps to do the things.
yeah.
But I'm just curious because you do seem like, well, I feel and know that you are someone who is very instrumental and you're respected in this field. So, yeah, what's your pulse on it all?
I feel that the eventual goal is to create harmony, unity, transparency, integrity, love on Earth,
Hmm.
right? And a lot of times it seems that we're nowhere near that. Um, I will say this: when it comes to Yuga cycle information and the cycles of time and
Yes.
26,000 year cycles, we are at a shifting of a cycle. And it's interesting that if you look back in history, at least the ones that we can track, there's huge wars right in the 100 years of the shift. We had like
Hmm.
just that's literally like 1920 up until like right now. And just think of all the wars that we've happened since then, right? And so it's like it's basically seems like like the dark night of the soul is coming out and humanity be expressed, right?
Thank you. Yeah.
Even what happened on COVID, like we were literally in quarantine from the stars, and we actually experienced a physical freaking quarantine right before the end of an actual quarantine that is a bigger one. So I feel that the law of non-interference and interaction with humans has actually gone. However, they're not choosing to come down because of the consciousness level. They're interacting with individual people through meditation, through channeling, and through group interactions and landings. Like in Peru, they have stuff going down there. And it's inevitable that within a few years, everybody on Earth is going to know that we're not alone in the universe. Like if you look at any of the Congress stuff and the documents coming out, like, oh my freaking God, like the stuff that they're saying that they're finding, it seems like every advanced government has interaction with different beings and races and have been reverse engineering craft for God knows how long. So technology is coming out, is going to have to come out. And then also the awareness that a lot of groups of people have been interacting with these beings, right? So with that, first step is you lied to us. That's where we're at now. So a lot of people who are aware about it that aren't into the spiritual realm are just like, what are you talking about? They've been lying about this level. What else are they lying about? So it's like that anger element coming to the surface, you know. And then when we all accept that we're not alone in the universe, the next step would be shifting from thinking that they're going to come and attack us and take us out to the curiosity of what that really means. And now you see the shadowy elements of society trying to push this narrative of why is it the military behind all this stuff? It's all defense contractor stuff. It's about let's fuel more money into defense contracts to defend ourselves from an external threat, right? So that's the work that I'm doing, is to inform people that there is no threat on that level. And so I'm hopeful that when people, everything they do backfires. Okay, so let's just get to the bottom line. Everything they do backfires. COVID backfired and backfiring. Okay. And for big pharma, super backfiring. People losing faith. They, to get more grounded here, you know that the US government just passed a $95 billion deal yesterday to give money to Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel. Okay. $95 billion. And they've already given so much money, right? So it's all over my YouTube because I got YouTube from the US, right? And MSNBC, ABC, and all this stuff. And they're all like the Speaker of the House is like, we have done a victory for democracy today. We're going to say to our allies that we support you and we support democracy, and to those that are against us that we will not stand for your corruption and crimes against humanity, blah, blah, blah. So instead of scrolling like crazy on Instagram Reels, I took a few hours reading the comments on each of those things. And every comment is freaking infuriated. What on earth are you doing with my money? What about the people here? We're struggling. Everyone, not one that wasn't. Okay. I literally skimmed through hundreds of comments. They're freaking are completely disconnected from what the people want.
And I want to say, something I've been feeling to weigh into and add to this topic, and why, the UFOs don't come save us and all of that. I feel like they understand, because they're at this higher intelligence, that this is our chance as a humanity to evolve, and we need to like literally grant our own sovereignty by stepping the fuck up and like liberating ourselves. So if they were to come down and liberate us, we wouldn't go through the process of like, we need to say no to our governments. We need to turn around and call this shit out ourselves and fucking save ourselves, right? It's like we need to step into our divine masculine, which is, I feel, the energy of this year collectively. Not just females and males, sorry. I mean like everyone in their divine masculine, protector, warrior, like protecting our earth and the sacredness. We need to do that. And if they were to come down and save us, or just like conveniently fix our problems, or take us to another planet where there wasn't this shit, all these things that channelers say, I feel like that would rob us of the opportunity. It's like when someone goes through a dark night of the soul, we have to go through that to make us be able to do our mission in the way that we are. Like we've prepared for it. So I think humans need to go through this fucking discomfort and this anger, like all of us did on our spiritual journey. I remember my first years, I was so angry. Like I
Hmm.
was rage filled, Kali Ma, wanting to fucking kill
Hmm.
everyone because I couldn't bear the pain of like how much it hurt. The betrayal, the fucking shit, the crimes against humanity, all these things, the lies.
Yeah.
But then once you move through that rage, you're able to ascend and evolve into a higher perspective. And then there's the ones that obviously we're in that energy now and we're ushering everyone. But what I want to
Yeah.
say to people listening is that there's so much of humanity who's still in that rage. They're in that rage like that angry toddler. And we've just got to hold that higher, non-judgmental, like loving perspective of we know that this is fucked up and it's going to be chaotic and there's going to be war and people are going to die and everything's going to fucking collapse, but we're holding the vision of what's on the other side of that these people can't
Exactly.
see because they haven't gone through that journey personally. And so in a way, I almost think that it's easier for those of us who've been through some sort of spiritual awakening journey on our own before all this shit really starts kicking off, which I feel it is now, because our awakening wasn't this very quick rude shock, whereas I feel like now it's like a mass very quick awakening. Yes, people are ascending very fast, but at the same time it's like the rug is ripped out from under them, where for many of us sometimes maybe it took like a longer process. Like I started my awakening in 2012, but it was like a good 7 years
Hmm.
of gentle awakening before it hit me and fucking knocked me on my ass in 2019, and then it was like all of my shit.
Yeah.
Right, but that was, I was prepared. um I'm just curious if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah. Well, through great, the phrase through great adversity comes great triumph, you know, and that's what's going on. So what I was getting with those comments is that people are completely losing faith in the system, and that has been created, and so a new one needs to be created. And we've had like in our past with kings and queens, we'd call them the sovereign, right? And even though the monarchy is not around the world anymore, there still is that hierarchy component of our government being the sovereign. And what's happening is people are losing faith in the external sovereign, and they're having to find the sovereignty within us, right? And a lot of people are angry because everything they thought they knew and believed, especially in the governments that we thought were the good ones, people thought were the good ones, realizing that there's a lot of lies there. So it's a process that they're going through. And but what happens at the end of the rage? You don't stay in the rage, you need to process the rage. There's so much unresolved anger within society in general, and I feel that's the stage that we're at now. A lot of people think and have said, even at my events, that how could you say that there's going to be an evolved world? Look at all the craziness in the world. But that's the thing with darkness and duality. It's like you can just have the status quo and continue evolving forward, or you can have all the stuff come to the surface so you can clear it out and move into something better, right? And that's what I think is happening right now. That's why all this craziness is happening on the planet, is because we need to really look at what has happened rather than ignore it, and come to terms with it, come to peace with it.
Yeah, be able to actually like pay attention to it and see it and not
Yeah.
just fucking stick our heads in the sand. I think that's so true. And I think the other thing that it really needs to be said is like these yugas, they're thousands of years. Are they thousands of years? I feel like
Yeah.
they're thousands of years. So
Hmm.
like that shifting period, we're in the middle of a shifting period, but we may not actually see it to fruition in our lifetime. And so
Hmm.
we maybe just came for the because we're like, gonna stick my hand up and go for the most fucking chaotic part, right?
Hmm.
Like we need to, it's like Moses who like had this vision of the promised land and taken his people there and had to like stick by it his whole life and never actually made it himself.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the energy of many of us. And yes, there's new earth is being built in so many ways in different contexts and we're starting to see it emerging, but I feel like it's not properly going to be anchored in our lifetimes anyway. Like it's our children, it's our children's children. And so it's that just acknowledging as well, like this is where we are. Like that's we're at this pivotal turning point. It's going to be messy and it requires us to take action too. Like it requires us to stand up in our sovereignty and our self responsibility and do the things to move ourselves, right? Not just spiritually bypass everything and, oh, I eat vegan and I go to fucking kirtan, so therefore I'm on the new earth. It's like, no, sweetheart. Like we actually have to move together and mobilize,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've heard channelers saying, a friend of mine channeled that like this period of building this new earth could be anywhere between, I think he said like 10 years and 40, I don't remember the exact number, but the length of time depends on how quickly humans come together and
Right.
mobilize. And so that
Right.
part is up to us. So I want to thank you for the work that you do with your
Yeah.
platform, because it's, yeah, like you're helping people to come together in that way. If to finish up, is there anything that you really feel to share or that's coming through for you for the listeners that you would just like to put out there?
I'd like to share what we have coming up over this
Hmm.
next year.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we have our conference in Glastonbury, and so actually we just launched a new website. So it's a really amazing website, and you can sign up there. And there's hundreds of hours of presentations. So a lot of what we've been speaking about topics, you can just go and start browsing, and take a look at that. We have like add to watch list feature, and we have upcoming events there. So a lot going on this year. I have kind of dubbed, like every year I dub a new theme for the year based on just the energy that I feel. Even though we do every topic still, but there's like an overall energy. And I chose galactic origins for this year.
Amazing.
So we're going deep into the origins of ancestry of humanity from the galactic community and beyond. And so we have a few massive events like that, and then we're actually ending the year in December 14th for our cruise, the Galactic Origins cruise. So
Hmm.
December 14th, galacticoriginscruise.com. And that is like, I've done over 4,000 events, probably way more now. And this is going to be probably the biggest production I've ever done, because it's 7 days at sea, going to ancient sites, Honduras, Belize, Mexico, starting from Florida, going to ancient sites, but also 7 days of awareness with 23 plus speakers. And even though we'll have all types of topics there, it's about really remembering our connection to the galactic community, because I want to move the conversation. As in the next year or two, we're going to see a lot of more UFO disclosure information coming out, secret technology coming out, and it's up to us to move the conversation from the like how fast is it going to why they're here, who's driving these vehicles, what is that connection to them, what does this mean for our past and our future, right? So that's something that I'm focusing on this year, and I feel is going to be the main thing that we're going to eventually get to anyway, when it comes to the fact that we're not alone in the universe.
I love it. Ah, sounds exciting and amazing. Well, beautiful soul, thank you so much for joining me. Love your presence, love your
Thank you,
energy,
Beck.
love your purpose. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If people want to just to spell it out for them in case they're really fucking lazy
Yeah.
and they don't want to Google, how they find the website.
Yeah, portal to ascension.org. Okay, portal to
Hmm.
ascension.org. You could just search it on the search engine, and we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, ultimately, if you join the Instagram, YouTube, and our website, different content, all those platforms, and you'll really get a feel for everything we're doing.
You know what? I think a lot of my listeners actually probably already follow Portal to Ascension, but yeah. Okay, well, that is us for today, guys. Thank you so much for being here and for listening. And until next time, beautiful souls, I love you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Cracked Open. Don't forget to hit subscribe and share with a friend if this episode has served you in any way. For more information about the work that I do, or to get in touch with me, read the show notes or head to beckmylonas.com. Until next time, beautiful soul.